I don't care what you look like or what you think. I don't care what you do or where you're from. All I care about is that gift hidden inside you. And all I want to do is help it come alive. Because where we're going, we're going to need a lot of heroes. For the record, 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by Momentum Lab. The point of Momentum Lab is to turn idealists into impactors by aligning your dreams and aspirations with success in every area of your life today. Momentum Lab is like a playground for your highest self. We take your dreams seriously and help you remove any blocks to realizing them. We do this through courses, virtual events, in-person events, and our signature year-long accelerator. To join our world, engage in dialogue, meet up in person, and just blow your mind, sign up at momentumlab.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of 10,000 Heroes. I'm your host, Ankur Shah Delight, and today is going to be a solo cast episode. I recorded a little segment a couple weeks ago about the relationship between planning and relaxation. So the theme here, as in many of our episodes, is about integrating opposites and taking what's really beautiful about the relaxation mindset and what's really beautiful about the planning mindset and trying to get the best of all the worlds. So let me know how it lands for you. So that's what I'd like to talk about today is the relationship between relaxation, planning, and what I call the chain of inspiration. So to start this, I just want to present my little internal model of how growth works, which is that there's three places we can be. There's the comfort zone, the stretch zone, or the panic zone. And that growth happens for me when we're in the stretch zone. So even though it's really nice to be in the comfort zone, and I'll say I want to be growing all the time. I always want to be learning. Actually, I probably always want to be in the comfort zone. That's what the body wants, the whole animalistic nature of just wanting to relax and conserve energy. There's really a part of me that just wants to be in the comfort zone, eating ice cream on the couch. But there's also a part of me that wants to grow and learn and get better and achieve my goals. That's in the stretch zone. And the panic zone is the area I get into when I think I'm learning, I think I'm doing the right thing, but I've really gone too far. I've stressed myself out and I'm actually not able to effectively learn. So, the cues are hyperventilation or distraction, all that kind of stuff that we're familiar with. So stretch zone is where I want to be, where the mind is pliable. It's learning things. I can really feel like I'm hitting that edge, that limit, but in a good way. And I'm not hyperventilating. I'm not upper limiting. I'm not self-sabotaging. So everything that I talk about when it comes to planning and backwards planning, which you may be familiar with now, is really an important part for me in staying relaxed and staying in the stretch zone. And so here I'll show you how it doesn't work with theory, and then I'll give you how it doesn't work with practice, then we'll talk about how it works. So the way it doesn't work that I've seen both for me and for other clients I've worked with is that if you have a really big goal and then you feel the need to do a lot because it's a really big goal, and then you very quickly get overwhelmed and burned out, and you stop and we lose that thread of momentum, compound momentum and consistency, and you just kind of crash and burn. And then hopefully you pull out of it and get started again, but you've suffered this entire delay and this lack of momentum. So that's how it doesn't work. So here's an example. Let's say I have this mission about ADHD, and I have this new way of relating to people with ADHD as if they're rock stars or sports heroes, or really just like a gift. And that what they actually have is a superpower. I don't know. I'm just making this up. Okay. And I really want this. I see the benefit of this approach, and I want this to be standard all across the country in 25 years. That's my life stream. So if I want that, and I'm okay, how do I get that to happen? Oh, I need to start contacting these people in all these different states and getting everybody to know about my idea and proving to everyone that's the right way to go. And the way we're dealing with ADHD right now is totally barbaric. And there's without a clear sense of planning or the the milestones along this path, what happens, the entropy of it, is that I just want to do everything right now and I want to have all those results right now, which is like pure panic zone. And that leads to everything we talked about before in terms of burnout and lack of momentum. So for me, the right way to do it in order to keep my sense of relaxation and to stay in the stretch zone is to have these limits. So I know, rather than trying to do everything at once, I know what is okay. It's almost like the minimum viable progress for any given time frame. So if in 25 years, I want the whole country to be like in this new paradigm of how we relate to ADHD as a gift, maybe in 15 years, all I need is a handful of states, like 4 or 5, as long as they're like the kind of cutting edge states on the forefront of education, and we can like look in the past and be like, oh yeah, when X state and Y state does something, the whole nation does it a few years later. That's all I need to be in 15 years, is have it in, let's say, these 4 states. And seems to me, like in this kind of planning fantasy, again, I know nothing about this, that the right thing to do would be to get it going in like 1 state before that. So maybe in 10 years, have it like really adopted in the curriculum or the standardized approach of 1 state, maybe the state where I live, which is Washington. And so then all of a sudden I've gone from having this like really hardcore, impossible, world-changing 25-year goal, which I'm still planning on doing, to having something that's a little bit more in my area of expertise. It's where I live. I might have more connections in 10 years. It's still a pretty big goal. And if I stopped there, I would probably still freak out and spend a lot of time in the panic zone. So let's continue the exercise. So, okay, if I want this to be adopted in Washington in 10 years, what would be a good way of doing that? Maybe I've got to present at conferences and meet all these people. Maybe there's like a state education, psychology, ADHD conference. And if I could present at that, say for 5 years in a row, some pretty impressive results, I'm guessing that after 5 years of repeated presentations, I'll have some sway. So maybe if I make my first presentation at a state conference in 5 years, that sets me up for having the impact I want to have on the state level in 10 years. And again, like what I'm trying to do here is not what's the most I can do in 5 years in order to hit that 10-year goal, but it's really flipping it on its head as to like, what is the least I can do in 5 years? Because that is more relaxing. Because the most, there's no end to the most. You can just always do more, and we will expect ourselves to always do more unless we have these really nice, tight, bounded limits on what we need to do in order to hit our goals. So 5 years, I want to present at the state conference. All right, how do I do that? I probably have to have something worth presenting. Maybe I need a few years of research at a certain school or a certain district. So that like outlines a whole plan for my next 5 years of like, all right, I want to do 4 years of research based on this program that I'm unrolling in a certain school. And then so in the 5th year, I can present at a conference. So in order to do that, what I need to have established by the end of this year, or maybe the end of this quarter, is a district that is willing to work with me. And so that is like a very tight, still a stretch goal, but it's a tight goal for 3 or 6 months that I can work on and come up with a list of districts that are nearby or really anywhere in the state, come up with like my proposal of what the program is, and then just pitch it. So that is meant to be relaxing by, again, going from what's the most to what's the minimum. And it's the exact opposite of some of the optimizing behaviors we're taught, either in terms of accumulation or action or representing ourselves. But really that, for me, is sustainability. We use this backward planning thing to have these long-term goals that we want to affect the world and make our contribution. But we start with what is the minimum I need to do now in order to get to that beautiful long-term goal. And all the and this is the connection, relaxation, planning, inspiration, all the bandwidth that used to be taken up by that stress and that panic and that jumbling around of how do I do everything right now can be replaced with inspiration. Like, oh, how inspiring would it be? So I'm there sitting in the hot tub, watching the eagles, brainstorming about, all right, who are the people I'm going to contact? And the idea is like, I can constantly get back in touch with the inspiration. Because that's the whole reason I'm doing these big goals, is that they're inspiring. Because the actual items, talking to people I don't know, maybe having to do some sort of like online advertising, doing annotations or footnotes on a book or a research paper, working with web developers to build out courses, that's not inspiring to me. But if I have all these pieces in place, the 25-year goal, the 5-year goal, the 1-year goal, the quarterly plans, the weekly plans, what I'm supposed to be doing today, anytime I hit something that is not inspiring, which is going to be every day, like, okay, now I got to spend 4 hours on tech support with these guys. You can go back to that plan and you can climb that chain of inspiration. Okay, I'm not inspired by this, but why am I doing this? Why am I taking the time? I have this one precious, beautiful life. I'm not hanging out with my daughter. I'm not chilling with my best friends. I'm not making music. I'm on tech support. Why? What is the why? So the why is this, like, what is the inspiration? Well, it's because it's to hit this weekly goal. Okay, and the weekly goal is what? To get payments running for some other thing. Okay, great. But do I really care about that? Well, what's the quarterly? The quarterly goal is to be able to interface with this district. And that's worth it. Because whatever I care about the kids in this city or in this district or not, I know what the impact is on the long term. And like, I'm doing this so I can present at this conference. I'm doing that so we can change how ADHD is treated for every kid in Washington State and have this leading edge impact on how it's going to work in the country. And that's something that I found inspiring. That's why I came up with this whole chain of events in the first place. And so every time I run into a block or an internal motivational hiccup or just some crap I don't want to do, I can climb that chain of inspiration. So that's how I see it. And to me, it's like a really important mindset calibration because we're doing things. I mean, if we have the luxury and the flexibility to be setting our own goals for the impact we want to make, that's already an incredible gift. And rather than taking that gift and turning it into a should, we can preserve it as inspiration, get meaning out of it. And we do that by keeping it relaxed. And we do that through, it's a little bit paradoxical because we're doing the relaxation through the planning, which many people think is antithetical. But I think they go perfectly together. Because if you have the relaxation without the planning, you're not going to have the impact. And if you have the desire for impact without the planning, you're not going to have relaxation. So in order for me to feel like the experience I want to have in every moment, which is like love and relaxation and excitement about my life, I use the planning together with the goals to guide me towards.
Hi everyone, this is Martin Stan, your producer, audio editor, and sound designer in chief for the 10,000 Heroes team. I just wanted to take a minute to thank you for listening to our show. Let me tell you a couple of things. 10,000 Heroes is brought to you by the team at Momentum Lab. Pierre does our artwork, DJ Plainview compose our theme music, and I handle all the editing, production, and sound design. And now we're closing this episode with a word from our main sponsor, who also happens to be our host, Anchor.
Hey everybody, thanks again for listening. If you like this episode, there's 2 things I want you to do. 1, introduce me to the most inspiring person you know so I can have them on the show. And 2, take the next step towards us hanging out in person. Maybe that's signing up for the newsletter. Maybe that's attending an upcoming in-person or virtual event. What I'm trying to do here is destroy the basic one-to-many nature of this medium, podcast, entertainment, and replace it with something that actually builds connections between people, the beloved community, getting closer together, understanding each other, one conversation at a time. So, join me. Bye!